What's up, guys? This is Dr. Steve, and I want to welcome you to another Tuesday night edition of the All In Hangout. I want to thank you for taking the time to join us this evening. Whether you're watching this live or watching the video replay, thanks for taking the time out to watch this, because we know there's lots of other stuff that you could be doing right now, but you've chose to spend 30 minutes with us, and we appreciate that. And obviously, we're going to try to deliver some value and some content for you to make that decision worthwhile for you. So as always, I am joined by Supermom and Superwoman Cheryl Stamett, and the super guys, I guess, Jorge Zuluaga and Simon Cornelius. And again, we just want to welcome you to our hangout tonight. Every Tuesday night, we get together just to kind of share some things, some tips and strategies, some mindset stuff, some training, and things that can help you in your business, in your life, maybe both. And tonight is going to be no different. Tonight we're going to talk about a little bit about why people do what they do, a little bit about why people are a lot like a computer, and what some of the things that you can do about that. It's really going to be about programming, and we're going to get into what we mean by that. Like, what is programming? What does that mean? And how does it affect you? How does it affect your life, your decisions, and of course your results, because we're obviously all about results. So before we even do that, I'm just going to throw this right at you, Cheryl, because as you know, I love ladies first. And well, I don't know if Cheryl's still with us. Oh, there she is. Did we lose Cheryl for a second?
She's back. She's back.
There you are. Okay. I thought you were playing.
Cheryl.
So I'm going to throw this at you, Cheryl, to start with. I know you've been doing a lot of talking today, and too bad. You're here, so you're going to talk some more. What is when you hear programming, like when someone talks about programming, and we're not talking about computer programming, but there's a lot of similarities which we'll talk about, but when somebody talks about programming, what does that mean to you?
To me, when I hear the word programming, of course I think computer, because I'm an engineer, but it also means following a traditional course of action in how you conduct your life, how you conduct your business, how you color inside the lines, doing things in a way that you could say, oh, well, it's always been done this way. And I'm probably going to use a lot of quotes tonight when I talk about programming, so y'all get ready. But that's essentially what programming is to me. It's just, so in a way, blindly following what you've learned and just not really thinking for yourself what you could do differently or what you might enjoy personally versus what other people want for you.
Simon, you have a different take on that? What do you think about when you hear that?
Well, I got to tell you that computers were one of the first things that come to mind, because that was my background for like a couple of decades. Right, and I grew up when Apple's just came out, and computers just came on. It was all exciting stuff. So I went through school, and my dad was an engineer, electrical engineer actually. So I kind of followed in his footsteps, and just grew up loving computers. So initially, the word programming, like 20 years ago, was all about computers, because that's what I used to do was write programs and write software for computers to do stuff. So like you see these phones that you have here, these cell phones everyone has. I would write software that powered the cell phones. So it was pretty exciting stuff in those days. So that's my initial thought was to do with computer programming, because that's where I came from. But there's a lot of similarities between what goes on in this phone and what goes on in your head, and we'll get to that later on.
Yes, I was going to say save that, because we are going to get to that.
Yeah.
Jorge, what about you? Do you have a different take or a different perspective on what you think about when you hear the word programming?
When I hear the word about programming, Steve, hi guys. When I hear about the word programming, I think about more of automated things. You go and you don't really think. You're not creative in doing or being open-minded in things that could come. So you're pretty much like a horse, with these things on their eyes and go straight forward. So there's not much of creative thing to go to other ways and see new things and learn things that might be productive for you.
And I like the blinders analogy, because we're going to talk about that a little bit too. I sent out an email and did a Facebook post today about how similar we are to computers. You know, you guys have all heard the expression that computers don't make mistakes, right? Because they don't. Computers will only do what you've programmed them to do. You may not like what it does, you may not agree with what it does, but it's doing what it was programmed to do. And we are very similar in that nature because we grow up in our home, in our school, surrounded by people who program us to think about things a certain way. And like Jorge said, we kind of go through life running on that operating system, following that programming, and just kind of doing what we were programmed to do, even if it's not in our best interest. Because we're following that programming. Because why? It's what we know. That's what we know. That's what we've been trained. That's what we've been taught to do and to think. And we follow that programming. So the issue is, as I mentioned, if the programming isn't serving you well, you need to figure out how to rewrite that programming. Now, we've talked a lot in the past about mindset and learning from others and opening your mind and things like that, and all of those things are going to help you rewrite your programming. But what I want to talk about, before we talk about what we can do about that, I'm going to you guys are not going to be happy with me because this is probably not going to be the easiest question to answer, but we like to ask questions and answer them, and it gets us kind of thinking on the go. There's a lot of instances in which programming is not self-serving. And when I say, again, I'm not talking about a computer. There's that analogy, and Simon, like you said, and like I'm saying, there's a lot of similarities to the way we think and the way computers operate. But I want you guys to give me an example of programming. Actually, this probably won't be too hard, but programming that is not self-serving. It's not in our best interest. It's something that we were raised to think, to believe, to do, and we kind of keep doing it. We kind of keep plugging along at it because we're following that program, even though it's not really the best thing for us. You know, the results that we're getting by following that programming isn't really the result that we want. You know, whether it's in business or in a relationship or in home life or whatever it might be. The example can really be anything.
I got one.
Programming that you're following that's not getting you where you want to go. So I'm going to go in reverse order this time. So Cheryl, you get to think about it more now. No offense, no, you know, not ladies first this time. Rotating. So I guess I'll start with, who did I go to last? Jorge, I guess Jorge. So I'll throw it at you first, Jorge. So I guess you're on the hot seat to begin with. But just give us an example of some kind of programming that people grow up with, people follow, maybe even their whole lives, without it being really very good serving for them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. Like on the firing squad. Okay. The biggest example that I've learned always, not always, but recently, is the terms of how do you work and who do you work for. I think that's one of the biggest examples. Is that, yeah, I mean, you get educated in a certain way. They teach you that you're supposed to study hard and then go from high school to college, get your MBAs and PhDs and whatever, all that stuff, and then work for somebody. And at the end of the day, maybe that worked and you work there all your life and you get a good pension and you retire. As you know, that used to be very true 50, 60 years ago. But times have changed, mergers, buyouts, globalization. So not necessarily, but we continue to go with that mentality. Again, with the example that we put with the blinds of the horse, that we don't seek opportunities or listen, not even listen sometimes to chances that we have there in the market. So that could be one example, one strong example in my opinion, that we always want to work for somebody, to feel or have a sense of security.
Right, and I think that's probably the best example. I don't know, you know, I'm not gonna give out grades yet because I haven't heard what anybody else is. But I think that's probably one of the best examples, simply because it's what we talk about a lot, right? It's talking about breaking out of the mold, right? But you know, you're right. You're trained. We're programmed to go to school, get a job, work really hard, save as much money as we can, and work for somebody else for 40-something years of our lives. I mean, that's really a good example of programming that people kind of follow, because they don't know any other way. This is what they've been programmed to do. So I think that's probably one of the better examples. But Simon, I'll go to you. You know, maybe you can top it, but I think that Jorge's was a really good example. But I'm sure you came up with something while you had a chance to think about it.
Yeah, I've got a load of stories, and you know, I'll pick on one that's fairly obvious to when you think about it. When you talk about programming, let's talk about TV programs, right? And like the TV guide. You know, it's funny. When I grew up, we had like 4 TV stations. Right? I'm dating myself now, and now it's what 400, 4,000, and there's so many TV channels on there. And no, we don't even have TV in our house anymore. We turned it off a couple of years ago because A, we weren't really watching more than about 3 channels, and it was an extra cost that went out each month. But what was interesting I found was as you start surfing through the channels, you can get hooked into the Jerry Springers, and I don't know what else is out there, all the soap operas, all the negativity and the news. The news is a big one, right? You go on there, there's not much good news. There's bombings, there's killings, there's weather's bad. Everything that catches people's attention, it's more, what's the word I'm looking for? It's sensational TV. And you can get sat down watching that TV and going, Jerry, Jerry, Jerry. And then your mind is full of all these people that are talking all this crap to you or talking about this crap. And before you know it, you're thinking like those people. And if you don't watch out, you could end up being on Jerry Springer yourself.
Oh, God.
So just be careful about who and what you listen to, because you immerse yourself in crap. You're going to come up smelling like, not roses, but crap, right? So just be careful and just turn the TV off. You can't plan ahead your TV watching. Like on tonight, I'll watch this program here because of this reason, as opposed to just sitting down with the clicker going click, click, click. Oh, Jerry Springer's on. I mean, that's really the first thing that came to mind is turn the stupid TV off, go clean your mind up, go read a book, but just turn the bloody TV off. That's my inspiration here.
A good one. Another great example.
At least an A, doesn't it?
All right.
I'm reserving my grades until the end. I'm sorry. You're going to have to wait on the edge of your seat. But Cheryl, we'll go to the Superwoman and tell us what, give us an example of some programming that you're aware of that doesn't serve people and they just kind of continue to blindly follow it.
You know, I'm actually going to use, I guess, a lifestyle or a family example. When I was pregnant with my first child, I was reading all these forums and going through the information of what do you need to before you bring the baby home. What are the absolutely critical things you need? And I was seeing these lists that would be like 20 or 25 items long on a website, and I kept seeing these 20 or 25 item long lists on nearly every website I went to for new moms or pregnant moms or what to expect when you're expecting that sort of thing. And I actually kind of fell into that, oh gosh, I need all these things. When I got in further along into the pregnancy, I was like, oh gosh, I'm going to bring this new baby home and I'm not going to have all these things. I need to go and buy them. So I don't know if any of y'all that have partners or wives or friends that are pregnant or are experiencing that, but I find that all that my babies really needed was some diapers and a blanket and I actually breastfed, so they needed a boob and some sort of food source, and then just to be held, and that's maybe a list of 4 or 5 things total. So that I found that the programming of needing all of these items, and really that applies to any situation that you're just stepping into new, needing a whole host of items to accomplish something new isn't necessarily serving you well. You may just need some basic tools, some basic resources to make that activity happen.
Cheryl, to add to that, you have 2 sons, right?
I have a son and a daughter.
Yes, son and a daughter. So on the first one, you're programmed to think that way, right?
Mm-hmm.
Learn that not necessarily that's the right path to go. On the second, you change your way of thinking. because you've learned and you listen, and now you have the experience, and you go out about. So that's the way you to break the mold, think out of the box, and you know what, I'll do these things differently because you know what, I am open-minded to that part.
Mm-hmm.
That's true, and that's really how it went down. It was, oh, well, first time around, I learned I just needed these few things, so we cleared out a bunch of clutter, and when my daughter came along, it was like, oh, okay, we're cool, we kind of got our routine. So yeah, I fully think that any sort of programming or advice or family tradition that you've had it may or may not serve you in your situation.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's a lot of examples of this kind of programming. I mean, from the political party you vote for, or the the religion that you're raised under. It's just stuff that you're programmed to do, and you just kind of do it whether it's serves you well or not. And I'm going to tell a short story. You guys have all heard this story, but I'm going to share a story about a ham. All right, you guys know what's coming with the story, but I'm going to share the story for everybody that's watching because I want to prove to you how programmed we can really be. So there's a girl who's making a Christmas ham with her mom, and she sees her mom is cutting off both ends of the ham before she puts it into the pan. So the daughter asks the mom, well, why are you cutting off the ends of the ham? And she says, well, that's the way my mother always did it. So they go to the mother, and because they want to know, well, why are we cutting off the ends of the ham? So she says, well, that's the way my mother always did it. So they go to the grandmother, and they say, Grandma, I just want to know, like, why are we always cutting off, why do we cut off the ends of the ham when we make it for Christmas dinner? And the grandmother says, because I didn't have a pan big enough to fit the ham.
Mm-hmm.
So 3 generations of women are cutting off the ends of the ham, and they don't even know why. But they're doing it because that's what they were programmed to do. Now, obviously, they all had bigger pans. They could have easily fit the ham in the pan, but they were cutting off the end of the ham because that's what they were programmed to do. And that's a really simple example, but I think it conveys the point pretty well. So the question is, once you realize that, you can do something about it, right? You can stop cutting the ends of the ham off, obviously. But when it comes to this kind of programming that we're talking about, like the examples that we've given, especially the ones that aren't self-serving, right? And I could throw a whole bunch of logs on this fire from, people spend all the money that they make because that's what their parents did, or people become smokers or alcoholics or gamblers or all these different things because that's the house they were raised in. That's what they learned, and that's what they started to mirror. So the question is, once you identify some programming that is not self-serving, what do you do about it? Right? How do you reprogram yourself to get off of track A and onto track B, or rewire the hard drive, so to speak, or just reprogram it? So I'm going to twist up the order again. Simon, I'm going to go to you since you've been, kind of like the middleman this whole time. So I'll ask you first, like when you identify this kind of errant programming, so to speak, what is the best course of action to, I guess, find the bug in the system and fix it, for lack of a better word?
Well, it's first of all, I think it comes with realization because what's the term? I'll probably paraphrase this, but pigs don't know that pigs stink, right? And the first thing you need to do is, like with the ham example, start asking questions about, well, why do we do this? Is this the best way to do something? Now, with my history of being 6 figures in debt, true story, by the way, you've heard that before, is I was swimming with the pigs. None of us had any money. Everyone I hung around with had no money. But the thing is, I got sick and tired of being sick and tired. And at that point, there was enough pain. So I had pleasure of spending money because I had money, and then when it ran out, I stopped buying stuff. But then I had enough of living that paycheck to paycheck cycle, and then I started asking powerful questions. Well, how do I get more money? How do I manage my money? How do I have money left at the end of the month when the month is over, as opposed to having the month run out after the money's run out, which is where I used to work, right? So it's more of really getting ticked off, first of all, get irritated, get educated, and take action. But number one, you have to really kind of stand up and look around like, well, why do I live like this? Why do we all do this? When I see other people out there Other examples. I was listening to a guy last week, and I may have mentioned it last week. He makes over $1 million a month.
Hmm.
$1 million a month. Right? He pays, I don't know, millions of dollars in taxes a year, which is great. But if you're running around making minimum wage, right, because all of your buddies are doing that, look at this guy. He makes $1 million a month. He thinks about things a different way. So I would say the 3 steps is, and I'm stealing from one of my mentors, Doug Nelson, get irritated, get educated, and take action.
That's good. Cheryl, what do you think?
Well, I'm of the same vein as Simon, I suppose, because I would ask those questions, of myself. But I think even before that, when I run into a situation where I feel like, gosh, why is this happening? What's going on? Something doesn't feel right about this situation. I start looking into why doesn't it feel right for me? What would make this situation feel right for me? Or should I do something different in this situation to make myself feel better about what I'm doing? So I'm totally on with what Simon says about asking the questions. Just find out why things are happening the way that they're happening and do some investigation. A little scientific method, a little engineer speak there, but I think it really applies to life.
Yep. And Jorge, what do you think? Anything different?
Well, pretty much what Cheryl and Simon said, but I would add one more thing. You have to have clear what you really want. You have to know where you're going, what's your north, and once you have that, you need to, as Simon said, get educated and go through it. Now, you could follow the people who are there or going on that same path that you want, but you have to have very clear what do you want? What is your reason why to do the stuff that you want? Are you happy where you are right now? Yes or no? If it's a no, then do something about it. Don't keep on doing the same thing. So stop that programming that you have and move on.
I've got a good example of that one, if I may jump in. So yep. I spent 20 plus years in corporate America, right? And a year and a half, it seemed longer, but about a year and a half ago, I had my last day at my job, and it was an awesome feeling. But at the same time, the past 20 years, I've been programmed to be an employee, having an employee mindset, is one of the reasons why, because I'm one of those people too, it makes it really hard for me to do the transition from being an employee to being a business owner, because there's a whole different mentality. I mean, Steve has a business, but the other two of us here, well, we're employees, and I've had this brainwashing for 20 years or so about how to be a good employee. So the learning curve for me is, and there's probably more than just education, it's more fortitude and stick-with-itness, is how to make the transition through all this brainwashing of the past 20 years of being an employee to becoming a business owner. And it's been a tough road up, but I'm committed to it. And it's I don't look back. I don't regret one bit.
Cool.
Yeah, and talking about just other things, and I just want to jump in here. Other things to support addressing old programming is to get around people who are making a change in their life, who are making different decisions, who are going down a path that you think would be right for you. I mean, Simon, just like you were saying, I'm been working at my job for 14 years, and I decided several years ago that I wanted to start my own business to create some extra income and create time freedom for my family. So doing that, I for a while felt like I was in two different worlds, the employee world, the business owner world, and I'm still balancing that myself. But being around people like you guys and other people inside of our business and attending events has really accelerated the process for me as far as breaking free of old programming and breaking out of the track of go to school, get a job, and retire, and then die. I'm really grateful for that, and I always look forward to what all y'all say. And you know, if I need support in changing my mindset, I can come to y'all. I can listen to some empowering audios. I can read some empowering books, and really continue making that shift within myself, and you know, help delete and rewire that old programming.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You know, I can't remember where I was. I've been racking my brain for the last 5 minutes while you guys were talking, trying to remember where this took place. But I was someplace where I was asking a question about something that didn't make sense to me. And like you guys have encouraged everybody to do, you ask questions, right? You try to learn a little bit more by asking questions. And the answer they kept giving me was, well, that's the policy. Well, that's the policy. And I just kept going back to them saying, well, I understand it's the policy, but why? Like it was one of the dumbest things I'd ever heard, and I'm like, I know as soon as this hangout's over, I'm going to remember where it was, but it was one of the dumbest things I ever heard, and the policy made no sense. But my point is, even in business, even in the corporate world, people follow programming that doesn't even make any sense, and they themselves don't know why they're doing it. They just simply have a policy. So in addition to asking the questions like you guys have talked about, and we would certainly encourage you guys that are watching to ask questions and learn more about stuff, you also have to have a willingness to make a change, right? You have to recognize the programming that's not serving you well, and then you have to have a willingness to change that. Because, you know, we're in a business of helping people. That's one of the things that this All-In team does, is we help people that want it. And the reason why I emphasize want it is because there's a lot of people out there that need help. They need what we can do for them. They need what we do. But if they don't want it, we can't help them. So you have to have a willingness to want to make a difference, to make a change. Once you recognize that programming, you have to take action, right? You recognize it, like Simon said, you know, he kind of gave you 3 steps, but what you need to do is once you identify it, you got to do something about it. You have to do something about it. And that's true for everything in life, right? In order to get results, you got to take action. You got to do something different to get something different. And that's what this is about. If you keep going through life with the blinders on, like Jorge was talking about, keep doing what you've been doing, you're going to keep getting what you've been getting. So whether it's a relationship or a job or income or anything else, if you're doing what you've been doing and what you've been taught to do and thinking that's the way it is, there's other ways. You just have to kind of take the blinders off, open your eyes and your mind to the fact that there's other options. There's a reason why they say there's more than one way to skin a cat, which is the strangest expression I've ever heard, because who even wants one way to skin a cat? But the statement applies here because it's not just one way to do everything. So, you know, look, I could talk honestly. We could talk about this for hours because there's so many examples of bad programming, and there's so many things you could do about it, and so many suggestions we could give you. But we keep these to 30 minutes because we just kind of want to put a nice, neat bow on it, and just kind of give you an idea of what things you can be doing differently for yourself. But again, you have to want to do that. So we've got like a couple minutes left in this hangout. So what I'm going to do is we're just going to do a quick roundtable and kind of just like any final thoughts on bad programming, changing programming, making a difference, whatever it might be. And Cheryl, coming right back to you because we've gone full circle. So ladies first once again. Final thoughts before we wrap this up.
That's some programming, that ladies first. That's got to be programming, right? Had to jab.
Must did it.
That's good programming, then.
Yeah, no, I thank all of our viewers tonight, and thank all y'all here on the panel. And you know, just if you have any questions, or you have a feeling that something that you're doing may could be done differently, just step outside of that situation and think about how you could do something differently, do that thing differently, and propose that. And yeah, you might get the "oh, that's our policy," you know, line, but you took that step, and you had the courage and the imagination to step out and to try something new, to do something new. Mm-hmm. So that's my final thought.
Simon?
Yeah, I actually got 2 things. So most of us here have a cell phone. Tell me why, and I'm not picking on anybody, maybe, tell me why Apple is a better product than Android. Because friends have one, because you watch TV. Anyway, I'm just kind of picking on a few people. You think Apple's? I mean, I'm not saying Apple's the best or Android's the best. It's just sometimes there's a perception. Just want to challenge you. But number two is an interesting thing. I went to a seminar, 3-day seminar, the Millionaire Mind Intensive, awesome seminar if you have a chance to get to it. For 3 days, I was immersed in just some awesome training, getting completely brainwashed, getting reprogrammed. And then for the next week, I was looking around at all these people that had stinking thinking, going, my goodness, don't these people realize? And this is going to happen when you start to change the way that you think. You'll see other people who have not quite reached that same level, and you have to kind of feel sorry for them, and you put your arm around them. But realize that now you can't change the world, but you can change you.
Mm-hmm. Jorge.
Final thought very quickly. I mean, we've been taught to, go to school, go to high school, go to college, go to work for somebody, et cetera, et cetera. Now, following the crowd is not necessarily the right path to go. So give yourself the opportunity. Think, like they say, think outside the box, and be very open-minded, and you'll be surprised at yourself. Again, if you continue doing the same thing you've always done, you'll get the results where you are now. And if you're not happy where you are now, well, there's a reason why for that. So give yourself that opportunity.
Yeah, I just want to add one thing, going back to what Simon said, because Simon, you used the word brainwash, and that word to a lot of people has a negative connotation. And what's ironic is the people that do exactly what you said, Jorge, is break away from the crowd and do something different. People say that, oh, they've been brainwashed. Well, you're right. They have. Think about what that word means. It means they've washed their brain of all the crap that they've been taught to believe up until that point, and they figured out that there's another way. There's something better for them. So brainwashing is not a negative thing. It's a good thing. Just like when you take a shower, you wash off the dirt every day. That's body wash. Why would brainwashing be bad? It's a good thing. You're getting rid of all that negative programming that's gotten you where you are today. You know, there's a guy that we follow, one of our mentors, Aaron Rashkin, who, and I love when he says this. He says that, at least I think it's Aaron Rashkin, he says, your best thinking has gotten you where you are today. Mm-hmm. And if where you are today is not where you want to be, doesn't that mean your thinking needs to change? And that's where brainwashing comes in, right, Simon? Like in MMI, personal development, courses, books, stuff like this, associating with people that have figured it out, and get around those people. Wash your brain. Get brainwashed. Do something different. If what you're doing is not working for you, do something different. So anyway, I know we're a little bit long. I just wanted to kind of throw that one in there because I would be remiss and it would be eating at me if I didn't add that right there at the end. But I just want to thank you guys for taking the time to join us on Tuesday nights. We're here every Tuesday night at 9 o'clock. Put it on your calendar and make sure you follow up with the person that invited you here tonight. Talk to them about how you can get rid of your negative programming, what it is that we've done, what we do, and how we help others do that. Follow up with them, send them a Facebook message, an email, however they invited you, get back in touch with them, and ask those questions. Have a willingness to change, a willingness to learn, and let them help you. And that's it, guys. We'll see you next Tuesday night. Wrapping it up.
Thank you for coming.
Thanks for showing up.
Yeah.